Nia Brooks stood at gate C19, boarding pass shaking slightly in her hand, staring at a phone screen that wouldn't stop glowing. The post had 42 comments already. Congratulations flooding in like confetti she didn't ask for. She looked up. A man in a gray jacket was rolling a suitcase past her, heading for the next gate over, moving fast like he had somewhere to be. She grabbed his arm. He stopped, startled, looked down at her hand, then up at her face. "I need a fake boyfriend," she said. "1 week, my crush's wedding. I'll pay you, I'll owe you. I don't care, just don't let me walk in there alone." An older woman nearby lowered her magazine an inch, watching over the top of it. The man pulled his arm back gently. "I don't know you." He kept walking. She followed, cutting through the crowd to stay level with him. "I know how this sounds, I do. But I have 30 seconds and no one else to ask, so just hear me out." He didn't stop, but he didn't speed up either. She talked fast, words spilling out messier than she wanted them to. Years of almost a man who never said the thing he was supposed to say. A group chat that morning that broke something in her chest before she'd even had coffee. He slowed, then stopped completely, turning to face her fully for the first time. "What's your name?" he asked. Nia Brooks." Something crossed his face, brief and unreadable. Gone before she could name it. He didn't explain it, and she didn't notice enough to ask. "1 week," he said. Nia blinked. "That's it? Just, yes? You want an argument, or you want a boyfriend?" The screen behind them flipped to boarding. "Before this story begins, tell us something. Are you watching alone tonight, or is someone sitting beside you? And where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city and state in the comments. We love seeing where our amazing viewers are tuning in from. Now dim the lights, get comfortable. Welcome to Afro-Korean Unique Tales." 3 months earlier, none of this had a name yet. Malik Carter used to show up outside her apartment with coffee he didn't need to bring. He remembered her order. He put his hand at the small of her back walking into rooms, like it belonged there. He called her at midnight just to tell her about his day, and she'd lie in the dark, grinning at the ceiling like a teenager. Tasha Bennett had watched all of it from the outside, arms crossed, unimpressed. "He's never going to say it. You know that, right?" Nia had waved her off. "He will." He didn't. Instead, on a Tuesday morning in her kitchen, phone propped against a mug of coffee, she watched the post load. Malik and Jasmine, a ring, a caption about forever. She read it 3 times before her body caught up with what her eyes already knew. She sat on the edge of her bathtub afterward, staring at herself in the mirror over the sink, mascara already gone, and she didn't cry the way she thought she would. She just felt hollow, and then furious, and then desperate in a way that scared her a little. She grabbed her suitcase an hour later. On the plane, Min-jae took the window seat without asking, which annoyed her for exactly 4 seconds before she let it go. "So," he said, pulling out his phone to make notes. "If we're doing this, we need a story. How did we meet?" "The airport," Nia said flatly. 10 minutes ago. Nobody's going to believe that." "Fine, you tell them then." He thought about it way too seriously for someone making this up on the spot. "We met at a coffee shop. I spilled your drink. I bought you 3 more to apologize." "That's the worst story I've ever heard. You have a better one?" "We met at a gallery opening. You were standing in front of a painting, pretending to understand it." "I do understand art. You don't." "I understand this conversation is going badly for you," he said. And she laughed. Really laughed, the first time in what felt like weeks. And something in her chest loosened just slightly. By the time they landed, they had a story neither of them believed, and both of them were, somehow, enjoying. The resort came into view past a wall of glass doors. High ceilings, soft light, the kind of place built for people who never had to ask the price of anything. Olivia Harper met them at the entrance with a clipboard and a rehearsed smile, checking names. "Brooks and—" She glanced at her list, then at Min-jae. "Kang Min-jae," he said, voice even, giving nothing away this time. "Right, you're in the East Wing." She didn't look up again, already moving on to the next thing. Across the lobby, a woman in white linen turned from a group of laughing bridesmaids, and everyone near her seemed to lean in a little when she spoke. Jasmine Reynolds moved like she'd been born already knowing how to be liked. She crossed the room and hugged Nia like they were old friends. "Nia, I'm so glad you came." Her voice was warm, unguarded, nothing performed about it that Nia could see. Malik didn't tell me you were bringing someone. Last minute, Nia said. Jasmine's eyes moved to Min-jae with open curiosity. No suspicion in it at all. Well, welcome. Behind her, an older woman in a structured navy dress watched the exchange without smiling. Angela Carter didn't say anything yet. She just watched Jasmine's hand rest briefly on Nia's arm, watched the ease of it, and something behind her eyes stayed sharp and unconvinced. Nia felt it too. The sense of stepping into something with more current under the surface than anyone else in the room seemed to notice. Daniel Foster found them at the check-in desk 20 minutes later, tapping through something on his tablet with a frown that didn't match the rest of his composed face. "So here's the thing," he said. "Our system auto-merges reservations same day when two names match a wedding party guest list under one surname pairing. It flagged you both under the Carter party this morning and combined the rooms before I could catch it. There's only one room showing under your names now, and it's—" He paused, scrolling. "It's the honeymoon suite." Nia looked at Min-jae. Min-jae looked at Nia. "There's nothing else?" she asked. "Not until Thursday. I'm sorry. I can push for a refund on the difference, but the room's already made up for you." Min-jae shrugged like it was nothing. "It's fine. It's really not fine," Nia said under her breath as Daniel walked them down the hall, gesturing at framed photos of the resort's past events like a tour guide who didn't sense the tension behind him. The suite had one bed, a large one dressed in white linen, rose petals scattered across it in a heart shape that someone on staff had clearly taken real pride in. Min-jae stood in the doorway, looking at it for a second too long. "I'll take the couch." "You don't have to." "I want to." He set his bag down by the window. "You've had a long day." She sat on the edge of the bed and pulled her knees up, watching him move around the room like he already knew how to make himself smaller in a space that wasn't his. He didn't ask questions. He didn't fill the silence just to fill it. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "You're going to anyway. Why'd you say yes?" "At the airport. You didn't know me." He sat down in the chair across from her, elbows on his knees. "Because you weren't lying. Most people, when they want something, they perform it a little. You didn't. You just looked like someone who needed one person to show up for her." He shrugged again. "I know what that feels like. That easy for you?" "No." He looked at his hands. "Not easy. Just clear." Nia didn't push further. She didn't need to. Something about the way he said it made her believe he meant it. And for the first time since the airport, the ache in her chest sat a little quieter. Malik found her the next morning by the pool, alone, sunglasses pushed up into her hair, coffee going cold beside her. "Didn't expect to see you here," he said, standing close enough that she had to look up at him. "You invited me. I didn't think you'd come." "Well." She picked the coffee back up just to have something to do with her hands. "Here I am." He glanced toward the resort entrance, where Min-jae was walking out in swim trunks, unhurried, easy in his own skin, in a way that made Malik's jaw tighten slightly. "Who's the guy?" "My boyfriend." "Since when?" "Since it's none of your business, Malik." He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You used to tell me everything." "I used to think you'd say something back," Nia said. "Turns out I was wrong about a lot of things." Malik didn't have a response for that. He looked at her for a second longer than he should have, then walked off toward the cabana, where Jasmine was laughing with two bridesmaids, her white dress catching the light. Min-jae dropped into the chair beside Nia without a word, watching Malik's retreating back. "That him?" "That's him. He looked at you like he made a mistake." "He made a lot of mistakes," Nia said. "That one's just the most recent." Min-jae didn't say anything else. He just handed her his sunglasses when hers slipped off the table and rolled under her chair, and something about the smallness of the gesture, how easy it was, how unbothered, settled into her chest and stayed there. That evening, Olivia gathered the wedding party for a welcome dinner under strings of lights along the terrace. Jasmine moved through the crowd, greeting people by name, laughing at the right moments, refilling a shy cousin's glass before anyone asked her to. Daniel Foster leaned toward Olivia at one point, murmuring, "She's the easiest bride I've had all year," and Olivia nodded in full agreement. Angela Carter watched from her seat near the edge of the terrace, arms folded, saying nothing. Nia caught her watching once, and Angela held her gaze for a beat too long before looking away, like she wanted to say something and had decided, for now, not to. Across the table, Malik raised a toast to his bride-to-be, voice warm, hand steady on Jasmine's shoulder. Everyone clapped. Everyone smiled. Min-jae leaned toward Nia under the noise of it. You okay? I don't know yet, she admitted. He didn't try to fix it. He just stayed close, his shoulder brushing hers, present in a way that asked nothing of her, and for the length of one toast, that was enough. The next morning, a photographer moved through the resort grounds with a wide lens and an assistant trailing behind her, gathering candid shots for the wedding album. She spotted Nia and Min-jae by the fountain, Nia laughing at something he'd said, her hand resting on his arm without thinking about it. Oh, I need this, the photographer said, already lifting her camera. You two are stunning together. Hold that. Nia went still, unsure what to do with her hands. Min-jae just turned toward her naturally, like it cost him nothing, and the shutter clicked 3 times fast. You're the next couple to get married, I can tell, the photographer said, checking her screen. I've got an eye for this. We're not, Nia started. She's kidding, Min-jae said smoothly, steering Nia away with a hand at her back. Thank you. Behind them, Malik had stopped walking. He stood at the edge of the path, watching the whole exchange, jaw tight, saying nothing. The rehearsal that afternoon fell apart in the best possible way. The flower girl, Jasmine's niece, maybe 6 years old, missing a front tooth, had gotten hold of an old family ring that Angela was supposed to be minding for the ceremony. Before anyone caught her, she'd run straight to Nia, grabbed her hand, and slid the ring onto her finger with total confidence. There, the girl announced. Now you're getting married too. A ripple of laughter moved through the small crowd. Olivia clapped a hand over her mouth. Even Daniel, checking his tablet nearby, looked up and smiled. Oh, sweetheart, that's not… Nia started to pull it off. Let her have her moment, Angela said, stepping in, voice quieter than Nia expected, almost amused. It's just a ring. Nia looked down at it. Old gold, a small worn stone, the kind of ring that had clearly been on other hands before hers. She didn't take it off. Malik watched all of it from across the lawn, arms crossed, and this time he didn't try to hide what was on his face. Rain came without warning that night, the kind that showed up fast and hard and sent the wedding party running for cover under the terrace awning, laughing, holding trays over their heads. Nia stayed out in it. She didn't decide to, she just didn't move when everyone else did, standing there letting it soak through her dress, her hair, watching the lights blur through the water. Min-jae came out after her, shoes already ruined, and didn't say anything about it. You're going to get sick, he said instead. Probably, he held his hand out, not asking for anything, just there. She took it, and he pulled her in slightly, and they moved together barefoot on the wet stone. No music except the rain and the muffled laughter still coming from under the awning. His hand stayed at her waist, steady, careful. Hers rested against his chest. Neither of them said much. They didn't need to. The space between them had gotten smaller over the last 2 days without either one naming it, and out there in the rain, it closed a little more. From under the awning, Jasmine watched them with her arms around Malik's waist, smiling. They're sweet, she said. Malik didn't answer. Later, once the rain stopped and the resort had gone quiet, Nia stepped out onto the sweet balcony in dry clothes, hair still damp, and found Min-jae already out there, elbows on the railing, looking out at the dark water. Couldn't sleep either? She asked. Guess not. She leaned against the railing beside him, close enough that their arms nearly touched. For a while, neither of them said anything. Today was a lot, she finally said. You mean him? I mean, all of it. Watching him stand there today, watching me with you, I thought it would feel like winning. She shook her head slightly. It didn't feel like anything I expected. Min-jae turned to face her, giving her his full attention the way he always did, like nothing else in the world was competing for it. What'd it feel like? She thought about it honestly instead of giving him the easy answer. Like I've been carrying something for 3 years that isn't even that heavy anymore. I don't know when that happened. He didn't fill the silence that followed with reassurance or a joke this time. He just looked at her, steady, and asked one thing. Do you still want him to regret it? Nia held his gaze. I don't think I need him to anymore. Something shifted in Min-jae's face, small, careful, like a door easing open that he wasn't sure he meant to touch yet. He didn't say anything else. He just stayed there beside her, shoulder to shoulder, looking out at the water long after the conversation had ended, and neither of them moved to go back inside. Breakfast the next morning ran long, plates half cleared, when Nia noticed Jasmine step away from the table to take a call. Nothing strange about that on its own. Brides took calls all week, caterers, florists, last-minute questions. But Jasmine's voice dropped low the second she answered, and she walked fast toward the far end of the terrace, out of easy earshot. Nia only caught a few words before the wind carried the rest away. Not yet. After the honeymoon, like we said. She didn't think much of it in the moment. Weddings were full of stress and secrets that weren't really secrets. Surprise gifts, surprise toasts. But something about the tightness in Jasmine's shoulders as she talked didn't match the woman who'd hugged Nia like an old friend 2 days earlier. A man Nia hadn't seen before approached the terrace not long after, dressed a notch too sharp for a beach resort, sunglasses pushed up into slicked back hair. He greeted Jasmine with a familiarity that read as more than friendly, his hand resting briefly at her lower back before she stepped away from it, glancing around first. "Who's that?" Nia asked Angela, who'd come to stand near her with a cup of coffee, watching the same exchange. "Ethan Pierce," Angela said. "Jasmine says he's an old family friend." Her tone made it clear she didn't believe the description any more than Nia did. Funny how often old family friends show up right before a wedding with money changing hands. "You think something's off?" Angela didn't answer right away. She just watched Ethan lean in to say something else to Jasmine, low, and watched Jasmine's smile hold a half-second too long before it reached her eyes. "I think I've been wrong about people before," Angela finally said. "I try not to be wrong twice." Ji-hoon Park found Min Jae near the resort's business center that afternoon. Laptop bag over his shoulder, expression tighter than usual. "You need to see this," he said, turning the screen toward him. "The investment group backing part of this wedding, the one financing Carter's new property deal, I cross-referenced the shell accounts. Same names keep showing up. Same ones we've been tracking for weeks." Min Jae studied the screen, jaw setting. "The same group trying to take apart the Brooks family business? Same group, different target this time, looks like. Does Malik know?" "Doesn't look like it. Looks like whoever's behind it wants it that way." Min Jae closed the laptop slowly, thinking, "Keep this contained for now. Don't move on it yet? You sure? If this is what I think it is?" "I'm not ready to blow up someone's wedding on a hunch," Min Jae said. "Watch it. Don't touch it." Ji-hoon nodded, though his face said he didn't fully agree, and walked off toward the business center exit, already back on his phone. Nia found Min Jae later on the private stretch of beach behind the resort, sitting in the sand with his shoes off, watching the water. She sat down beside him without asking. "You've been somewhere else all day," she said. "Work stuff." "That's not an answer." He glanced at her, then back at the water, quiet for a moment. "Can I ask you something? And you don't have to answer if it's too much." "Okay. When this week is over, the fake part of it, what happens?" Nia felt the question land somewhere real. "I don't know. I didn't think that far." "Me neither," he admitted. Then he stopped, like he'd caught himself walking somewhere he hadn't meant to go, and shook his head slightly, a small laugh escaping that didn't quite match his eyes. "Forget I asked. I sound like I'm auditioning for the real thing." "Maybe you are," Nia said, quieter than she meant to. He looked at her then, really looked. Something unfinished sitting behind his expression. He didn't say anything else. He picked up a shell instead, turning it over in his hand like it was easier to focus on than what almost came out of his mouth. Nia noticed. She didn't push, but she carried the moment with her the rest of the day, replaying the half-second before he stopped himself, wondering what the rest of that sentence might have been. If this story's got you hooked already, make sure to like this video, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, and subscribe to Afro-Korean Unique Tales so you don't miss what happens next. The sky was still dark when Nia stepped out onto the cliffside path, following the sound of the tide breaking against rocks somewhere below. Min Jae was already there, sitting on the edge where the grass gave way to stone, looking out at a horizon that hadn't decided yet what color it wanted to be. "Couldn't sleep," she said, sitting down beside him. "Me neither." They sat in silence for a while, the sky shifting slowly from black to gray to something warmer at the edges. Nia pulled her knees up, wrapping her arms around them. "Can I tell you something I haven't told anyone?" she asked. "You don't have to earn permission for that with me." She looked out at the water instead of at him. "I used to think if I just waited long enough, Malik would catch up to how I felt. like it was a timing problem, not a him problem. She shook her head slightly. Took me 3 years to realize some people don't come around. They just let you wait. Min-jae didn't rush to fill the space after she said it. He let it sit there, honest and unpolished, before he spoke. My father used to say something like that. About the family business, about people. He said the ones who make you wait usually aren't deciding. They already decided. They're just letting you find out slow, so it doesn't feel like their fault. That's bleak. It's accurate, he said, and something in the way he said it told her it wasn't just about Malik anymore. She turned to look at him. You ever wait on someone like that? He held her gaze longer than usual. I'm trying not to make the same mistake twice. The sky broke open behind them, the first real light of the morning spilling across the water, and for a moment, neither of them said anything else. It didn't need filling. They walked back toward the resort as the grounds started waking up, staff setting tables, the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. Malik was waiting near the path, alone, still in yesterday's clothes like he hadn't slept. Can I talk to you? He said to Nia, alone. Min-jae glanced at her. She nodded once, and he stepped back, giving them room, moving toward the terrace, but not far enough to lose sight of them completely. I called it off, Malik said. Once Min-jae was out of earshot, Nia stared at him. What? The wedding. This morning I told Jasmine I needed time. He ran a hand over his face. I've been standing here for an hour trying to figure out how to say this without sounding insane, and I don't think there's a way, so I'm just going to say it. I made a mistake, Nia. A big one. Watching you this week with him, I felt something I haven't let myself feel in years, and it made me realize I let you go without ever really understanding what I was losing. Malik, I'm not asking you to fix this right now. I just need you to know I see it. I see what I did. Nia opened her mouth, unsure what was going to come out of it, and Malik reached out, taking her hand between both of his. Not romantic exactly, more desperate than that. More like a man trying to hold on to something solid. She didn't pull away immediately. She stood there, hand caught between his, mind somewhere else entirely, trying to process 3 years of waiting suddenly being handed back to her all at once. Too much, and too late, and somehow still landing like something. From the terrace, Min-jae watched. He couldn't hear the words. He only saw the shape of it. Malik's hands around hers, her stillness, no immediate refusal in her posture. He'd seen enough real moments this week to know what one looked like, and from where he stood, this looked like one too. He didn't wait to find out he was wrong. He turned and walked back into the resort, past the staff setting tables, past Ji-hoon coming the other way with his laptop bag, not stopping when Ji-hoon called his name once, twice, following after him with quick, uncertain steps. Back on the path, Nia finally pulled her hand free from Malik's. I need time too, she said quietly. But not with you. I need to think. She turned to look for Min-jae and found the terrace empty where he'd been standing a moment before. Like this video, drop a comment letting us know what you think is coming next. And subscribe to Afro-Korean Unique Tales. This story's about to change completely. Nia checked the suite first. His bag was still there, but he wasn't. She checked the beach, the lobby, the business center, asking Daniel Foster if he'd seen him, asking Olivia, getting nothing but shrugs and distracted headshakes from people focused on a wedding that had just fallen apart in front of them. She found Ji-hoon instead, sitting alone near the fountain, staring at his phone like it owed him an answer. Where is he? Nia asked. He didn't say, just told me to handle things here and left. Ji-hoon hesitated, weighing something. He saw you, with Malik, this morning. It wasn't what it looked like. I know that. He doesn't. Ji-hoon set his phone down. He doesn't wait around to find out he's wrong about something. Not when it's about people. It's the one part of his life he doesn't run the numbers on. He just reacts and leaves. Nia sat down slowly on the edge of the fountain, the morning's events catching up to her all at once. I need to explain. Then explain, Ji-hoon said, but he's already gone. Private flight left 40 minutes ago. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tasha, 3 states away, who'd clearly been refreshing the group chat all morning. Girl, what is happening over there? Call me the second you can breathe. Nia typed back one line. It's a lot. I'll call you tonight. And put the phone away, grateful for one person outside all of this who was simply waiting to hear she was okay. By early afternoon, the wedding had unraveled completely and publicly. Angela had pulled Olivia aside with hard questions about the investment group backing the venue costs. Questions Olivia couldn't answer. Word had gotten to Malik about the calls Jasmine had been taking all week, and he confronted her on the terrace in front of nearly everyone, voice low and controlled in a way that was somehow worse than shouting. "Tell me who Ethan Pierce is," he said. "Really?" Jasmine's composure, so steady all week, finally cracked. "Malik, don't do this here. I think here's exactly where we should do it." Angela stepped forward before anyone else could, closing the distance to stand directly in front of Jasmine. "I watched you for 4 days," she said, voice steady, carrying across the terrace. "I watched you charm every person at this resort, including me. And some part of me kept asking why someone that good at being liked needed to work so hard at it. Now I know why." It came apart fast after that. Jihoon finally broke his silence and handed the documents over to Malik directly. The investment group, the timeline, the plan to drain Malik's accounts through a fund Ethan controlled, once the marriage made it legally simple, then disappear before anyone noticed. Jasmine didn't deny it once the documents were in front of her. She just stood there, the warmth completely gone from her face, replaced by something colder and more calculating than anyone at that resort had ever seen her wear. "You have no idea what it's like," she said quietly, "to no one and everyone, to be liked for being useful. I got tired of being useful for other people's plans. I decided to run one of my own." By the time resort security went looking for Ethan Pierce that evening, his room had already been cleared out. He'd slipped out sometime after the confrontation began, before anyone thought to stop him, taking whatever he could carry and leaving the rest of the mess behind for Jasmine to face alone. Malik didn't say anything else to her. He walked away without a word, past his mother, who reached out and touched his arm once as he passed. Not saying anything either, but present. The payoff of every silent, watchful look she'd given all week finally landing as something real between them. Later, once security had cleared the resort and the last of the wedding party had scattered into stunned, hushed groups, Nia found herself standing near Angela by the empty ceremony arch. She slid the old family ring off her finger and held it out. "This belongs to your family. It was never supposed to end up on my hand in the first place." Angela closed Nia's fingers back over it gently. "Keep it a while longer. Something tells me it's not finished with you yet." Nia didn't argue. She slipped it back on, and it stayed there a moment longer before she found Malik by the pool. "I need to say something," he said, sitting down across from her, "and I don't want anything back for it." She waited. "I strung you along for years because it was easy," he said. "Being wanted by you was comfortable. I never had to risk anything to keep it, so I never did anything with it. That's not love. I know that now. It's just taking." He looked down at his hands. "You deserved someone who'd have said something the first year, not the third." Nia studied him for a long moment. There was no performance in it this time, none of the desperation from that morning. Just a man finally being honest, 3 years and 1 canceled wedding too late. "Thank you for saying that," she said. "I mean it. But it doesn't change anything for me anymore." Malik nodded slowly, like he already knew, like he'd said it as much for himself as for her. Nia stood up and looked out toward the water one last time, toward the empty spot on the terrace where Min-jae had been standing that morning, and felt the full weight of what she'd lost by not moving fast enough. The flight home felt longer than it should have. Nia sat by the window this time, the empty seat beside her a reminder she couldn't stop looking at. She'd tried calling twice. Both times it rang out. Chicago greeted her with gray skies and a text from her mother that just said, "Come home first, before you go to your place." She found her parents at the kitchen table when she got there. Papers spread out between them, bank statements, letters with red-stamped urgency across the top. A folder thick with numbers that made her stomach drop before she even sat down. "What is this?" Nia asked. Walter Brooks looked older than she remembered him looking a week ago. "The business. We're being pushed out. Some investment group's been buying up our debt for months, calling in everything at once. Lawyers say we might lose it by the end of the quarter." "How long have you known?" "A while," Denise Brooks said quietly. "We didn't want to worry you during the trip." Nia scanned the documents, and one name near the bottom of a wire transfer log made her stop cold. A shell company. The same string of letters and numbers Angela had read off the resort terrace 2 days earlier, tracing back to Ethan Pierce. "This is connected," Nia said. To what happened at the wedding. The same people. Walter frowned. What wedding? She didn't have the energy to explain all of it yet. She just kept scanning the pages, and near the back of the folder, tucked behind the collection notices, she found something that didn't fit. A letter from a legal firm, dated weeks earlier, confirming an anonymous line of credit had been quietly covering the worst of the debt calls, keeping the business from collapsing sooner than it should have. "Who's been doing this?" Nia asked, holding the letter up. "Someone's been protecting us." Walter shook his head. "No idea. The firm won't say. Client requested full anonymity." Nia turned the page over, and at the bottom, barely visible, was a routing signature she recognized without wanting to. She'd seen it once, briefly, on Ji-hoon's laptop screen back at the resort, when he'd turned it toward Min-jae without realizing she'd glanced over. Her hands went still. "It's him," she said, mostly to herself. "It's been him this whole time." Then something else surfaced, a small detail she hadn't thought about in a week. "Dad, the morning I left for the trip, you said you almost didn't make it to see me off because of some incident at the terminal." Walter waved it off the way he always did. "Just got lightheaded. Some man stopped and stayed with me till the paramedics came. Made sure I was all right before he went on his way. I never even got his name." Nia felt her breath catch. "What time was that?" "Early. Right around when your flight was boarding, actually." "Why?" She called Ji-hoon before she even had a plan for what she'd say once he answered. "He's been protecting my family's business," she said. No greeting, straight into it. "For weeks. Before I even knew who he really was." "Why didn't he say anything?" Ji-hoon was quiet for a moment on the other end. "Because he didn't do it to be thanked. He found out about the threat to your family's business almost 2 months ago, through a completely different deal. He didn't even know it was your family at first. Not until he heard your name at the airport." "The airport," Nia repeated. "That's why he reacted like that. When I told him my name. He wasn't supposed to be on that flight," Ji-hoon said. "His original one left 40 minutes earlier. He missed it, because he stopped to help a man who collapsed outside the terminal that same morning. Called an ambulance, waited with him until they arrived, gave a statement to security after. Made him miss his gate completely." Nia's breath caught somewhere in her chest. "That was my father." "I don't know for certain," Ji-hoon admitted. "He never told me the man's name, but the timing matches everything you're describing." But Nia already knew, with a certainty that didn't need any more confirming than what she'd just heard from her own father minutes earlier. "Where is he?" Nia said. "Right now, I need to know." "Chicago," Ji-hoon said. "He flew back 3 hours ago. Didn't say why." Nia didn't wait for morning. She didn't call ahead. She got in her car and drove straight to O'Hare, past the same departure doors, down the same corridor, retracing a path that had started with a stranger's arm, and a request that still felt insane every time she thought about how it had actually happened. She didn't know if he'd be there. She didn't know if this was the kind of thing that worked outside of movies, showing up somewhere on instinct and hoping the universe cooperated. But she kept walking anyway, past gate C17, C18, towards C19, where it had all started, because it was the only place that made any sense to look. And there, standing near the same spot, jacket over his arm like he'd been waiting for longer than he wanted to admit, was Min-jae. He didn't look surprised to see her. He looked like a man who'd been rehearsing what to say for hours and still hadn't landed on anything good enough. "You knew I'd come here," Nia said, stopping a few feet from him. "I hoped," Min-jae said. "Wasn't sure. You left without saying anything. I saw him holding your hands. I saw you not pulling away." He shook his head slightly, like he was still working through it even now. "I told myself I wasn't going to be the guy standing around waiting to find out I read it wrong. So I left before I could find out." "You read it wrong. I know that now." "I was in shock, Min-jae. 3 years of silence, and he finally says something, and I didn't know what to do with my own hands, let alone what it meant. It meant nothing. It meant I was standing there, trying to process too much at once, and then I turned around, and you were already gone." He looked down for a second, then back up at her. "I'm not good at this part. The staying part. My whole life, when something mattered too much, I found a reason to leave before it could leave me first. That's not an excuse, just the truth." "I found out something else today," Nia said. "About my father, about an ambulance. About a flight you missed because you stopped to help a stranger on the ground outside a terminal. The same morning I grabbed your arm at that gate. Min-jae's expression shifted, caught off guard for the first time since she'd walked up. You didn't miss your original flight by accident, she said. You missed it because of him. Which means the only reason you were even standing at that gate, the exact minute I grabbed your arm, is because you stopped for my father that same morning, hours before you ever knew who I was. I didn't know it was him, he said quietly. Not until I heard your last name at the resort. Ji-hoon confirmed the rest a few weeks into protecting your family's accounts. I didn't say anything because I didn't want you to think I was in this because of some obligation, some debt to repay. That's not what it feels like, Nia said. It feels like something bigger than either of us was arranging this a long time before we showed up for it. The gate behind them scrolled through departures, names and cities blinking past, indifferent to the two of them standing still in the middle of the noise. Min-jae reached into his jacket pocket, hand steady, and pulled out a small box he'd clearly been carrying around far longer than made sense for how little time had actually passed. I bought this before the cliffside, he said, before any of this fell apart. I've been carrying it around like an idiot, trying to figure out if I was crazy for feeling something this fast, this sure. He opened it, a simple ring, nothing showy, nothing like the wedding they'd just left behind. I'm not asking you to marry me today. I'm asking if you'd be willing to fake it with me one more time. Nia felt something crack open in her chest, warm instead of painful for the first time in longer than she could remember. Fake what, exactly? A relationship, he said, the corner of his mouth pulling into something almost like his old teasing smile. Except this time, we don't stop pretending. We just keep going. Forever, if you're willing. That's a terrible proposal, Nia said, tears finally slipping loose, laughing despite them. You said the backstory idea was terrible too. Look how that turned out. Yes, she said. I'll fake it with you, forever. He slid the ring onto her right hand, beside the old family ring Angela had told her to keep, and pulled her in, not for a kiss, just close, her forehead against his shoulder, his hands steady at the back of her head, both of them finally standing still in the one place their entire story had started. A few feet away, half hidden near the terminal doors, Malik had come to Chicago on business he no longer remembered the reason for, and stopped walking the second he recognized them. He watched them standing there, wrapped around each other in the middle of a crowded terminal, and understood, fully and finally, that the greatest loss of his life hadn't been losing her. It had been never once truly seeing what he had. He turned and walked the other way, out through the sliding doors, into a city that kept moving whether he was ready for it to or not. If this story moved you, make sure to like this video, drop a comment, and let us know what part hit you the hardest. And subscribe to Afro-Korean Unique Tales so you never miss the next one.